What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. It's 27th of December. It's about 6:30 in the morning, 6:25 in the morning, my time here in California. Uh, we got a lot of rain last night. We're gonna have rain for today. We'll have a day off of the rain after this, but then we're gonna have like something like 8 or 9 days of rain. We need it here in California. We've been dealing with a drought for a long time, and anytime we can get some rainfall, get some water back in the ground, it's a good idea, especially with local officials and state officials making it illegal to water your grass and put water into the ground, which just it doesn't make sense. If you don't put water into the ground, you're not going to have groundwater, i.e., you're going to have problems with topsoils and all kinds of things. But let me back up a minute. I want to talk real quick about the $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill that Congress just passed in a lame duck Congress, by the way. The House is about to go under Republican leadership on the 2nd or 3rd. I want to say it's the 3rd of January, but it's the new year. And Republicans just signed on to this mega huge spending bill that's only going to worsen inflation. 1.9 trillion did this. Let's remember that. $1.9 trillion is what did this inflation. It's what caused it and created it. 1.7 trillion in the middle of this doesn't look good. Fed's still hiking rates. Hopefully they hit some sort of a cap, not a cap as in a traditional sense, but they hit the necessity for it is for hiking these rates starts to fall by summertime. That's our hope. But I wanted to talk about why this bill was passed real quick. Just a quick thought on it. First of all, it was written by one Democrat and one Republican congressman. It is 4,000 pages long. It was finished the morning that it got passed. Nobody had a chance to read it, but they wanted to keep the government funded, and they wanted to avoid passing and voting on and passing a continuing resolution bill. So if they would have just stuck with the CRB, they would have got spending and kept the government up and operating until new Congress takes over. Then they're able to pass a bill. And it would force bipartisanship with a Senate led by Democrats and a House led by Republicans in the new year. Republicans decided to not do that. They decided to go ahead and give these Democrats a huge win in a lame duck Congress. That's what we call a lame duck Congress, is after the party in power in Congress loses that power, but between Election Day and the assembly of the new Congress, I believe it's the 118th Congress coming up. So why would this happen? Why would Republicans put this on a silver platter? And here's the big kicker. After they passed this bill, Joe Biden had already checked out for the week, meaning we still passed a resolution bill to carry us over until he gets back. So why didn't we extend that? Why didn't we extend that resolution bill by 4 days, 4 fucking days, and have the Republican-led Congress, the duly elected Republican-led House of Representatives, do this? I'll tell you why. Democrats wanted it done so bad and Republicans fell for it, and it makes me sick at Mitch McConnell. They wanted it so bad to get through for 2 reasons. Number one, there won't be much for Republicans to do except for pork barrel and partisan things, investigations and whatnot, which I want to get to the bottom of a lot of things, but we also have a lot of work to do for the American people to deal with this inflation and deal with these tough times with a war-ridden world right now. The threat from China, North Korea is making advances. They broke a record on how many missiles they launched and lobbed over, with drones also, lobbed over South Korea. So there's a lot going on in the world right now. And this puts Republicans, when they're in charge of the House, this is going to put them behind the 8 ball with a lot of other things to occupy them. So all these negative things that the Democrat Congress has created will reflect bad on Republicans in 2 years when we go back to the ballot boxes. That's their hope. That is their hope. Inflation gets worse next year. They are willing to make your inflation get worse so that Republicans can take the blame for it. And whatever, Republicans deserve the blame for it. They absolutely deserve the blame for it. They're the ones who signed on with this shit. It should have been 0 Republican votes. It should have been 0 Democrat votes. If you think 1.9 trillion puts us into debt, and the way to fix that is spend 1.7 more, that's absurd. This is a record number of earmarks, pork barrel spending, record amount in the first bill where they're allowed to return after the pandemic. You're allowed to return to these. And you know what? Hey, a lot of these Republicans have voted against it. They're going to go back to their constituents, and they have, I'm sure, during this winter and holiday break through Christmas and New Year's. And they're telling them, oh, this is what I got done, that's what I got done. And really, they didn't get any of that done. None of them, Republicans and Democrats, got none of that done. It was shoved into a bill by 2 senators or by 2 congressmen who are retiring. They did this on the way out the door, y'all, hoping nobody's going to notice. Fox News, you can say what you want about them, but Fox News is the least retracting news organization in the country. So I'm just saying. But you can say what you want about them, but Fox News has actually warned about what this is, but no other news organization has. Fox News has also talked about what's going on at the southern border. Other organizations haven't. And let me tell you how I know that. During surveys, there's like 7 or 8 different studies that have been out there, surveys about the southern border. 87% of Americans surveyed, and this was something like overall, there was like 100,000 people. So it was a massive survey. But it was polls, it was about 25 or 30 different polls. But these are the numbers. 87% of them had no idea that there's a crisis at the border. None. When asked how many people they thought crossed, they figured 100,000 people this year, averaging 200,000 people for the 2 years, or 100,000 people for the 2 years, meaning about 200,000 people. We're north of 5 million. So, and we're north of 190,000 in October, north of 200,000 in November, and this month is supposedly it's projected to be somewhere around 285,000 people. That's people that have come across the border that we know about, not counting all the gotaways. So what they call gotaways, and it's just like anything else. You catch 1, 3 have gotten through. So since Joe Biden's taken office, that we know of, 6 million people. The Border Patrol is putting their paperwork to process them quicker, having it pre-filled out as Juan Doe, John Doe, Jane Doe, and so forth. They have these things already in place. They aren't even asking for names. They're saying, this is you. We're just going to say Juan Doe or John Doe, depending on where you came from, what country, what language you speak. Sign this as this name. We don't care what your name is, and we'll give you a call when it's time for court. All of that could have been fixed in this bill, and instead of doing it properly, they shoved it through, crammed it down working families' throats. Yours, mine, our taxes are going to all kinds of shit, from war in Ukraine to processing people at the border. And Democrats always want to talk about, well, we're the ones who put the funding on the border, but you're not funding stopping the flow or stemming the flow or controlling the flow of immigration. You're using that money to process these people and release them into the United States en masse as fast as possible. These are things to think about this morning. So pray about your country. Pray for your country. Also a huge shout out to Ryan and Diana. We're praying for you. You're in our prayers. And any of my friends who are praying people who talk to the Lord, please lift Diana up in your prayers. You don't need to know her. You don't need to know her situation. God knows. That's what's important. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. With that, love your family, friends, your neighbors, yourselves, and each other. Stop killing unborn babies. God bless.